Thank you, Steve. The panel is made with the three POCs we've seen. Can I call Dr. Jonathan Pinofilo to come back? And Michael Mbuthia, please. And Jamelino. Min, I still need you. I start with the first presenter, Mr. Jamelino. In light of each of your POC in Guinea under implementation, what are the main challenges you faced?
Thank you for the questions. So in Guinea, the implementation is still, I would say, at an early stage. But I can share maybe one or two challenges we are facing in the project implementation. All my colleagues presenting this afternoon talked about stakeholder engagement. And I would say that maybe it's the most important challenge we are facing in Guinea. Should I remind you that the project in Guinea is actually led by the Prime Minister Office. Canada is in partnership with the Prime Minister Office. We have agreed on all the activities. One of these activities, the key deliverables, for instance, is the FSP's onboarding. But we quickly realized that without full commitment from BCIG, from the Central Bank of Guinea, we cannot make any progress. So that's the challenge we are having. And we are addressing this challenge. You can see in the room the representative of BCIG, DG in charge of operations, because we think that we need to strengthen our relationship with BCIG and to have them fully on board. In terms of mitigation, also, we have recruited someone who is on the ground, project manager in charge of stakeholder coordination. So because we know Canada is not based in Guinea, but we need to have someone who is Guinea. So this also parts of the mitigation actions. Maybe to stop, I would just want to say that when you don't have strong stakeholder engagement, it creates delays in the project implementation. Because we talked about 5 to 6 months projects. So how do we make sure we can avoid these delays? That's why we, in terms of mitigation action, also we think that, for instance, for the onboarding of the FSPs, we should opt for a kind of agile process. Instead of having a full list of all the FSPs before starting the onboarding, we understand that no, we should start for the first and then the second. And I would like to appreciate here flexibility from TCLs on that.
Thank you so much. Michael, are they the same challenges in South Sudan, or you face new ones?
Thank you very much, Manzi, and allow me to recognize thank you very much. Allow me to recognize two gentlemen who've just come in right now. That's Director National Payments, Kum David, and Director Bank Supervision, Bank of South Sudan, Director Chan Andrea, who've just walked in. To answer your question, Manzi, I think for me, what I see as challenges are many opportunities. Because a POC is the ability to test the concept, right? And we see that timeline should be shortened, because once you understand the value proposition that you're providing a country, then it means that you don't have to do a POC for a long period of time. If it were left up to me, it would be 2 months and you prove the POC, or a month. So if you look at proprietary solutions, for example, a core banking system, or a card management system. They don't do POCs. They actually sell you a product off the shelf. So for me, I think after we do a couple of POCs, we should be able to have production grade application where we don't actually need to do a POC. The product speaks for itself, so that you just say this is a product, and we can now go to the next stages. So I think that's one, and maybe also to say that technology is not a challenge. Modular Loop as a DPG has proven itself as one of the DPGs of choice for retail payment infrastructure. So certainly technology is not a challenge, but also my main comment around time is what I'm saying, so that we can reduce the time maybe to a bare minimum, so that you can go to the next stages quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our POCs covers different region, one from the West Africa, the other one from East Africa, and a regional one. Dr. Jonathan, what are the main challenges you've seen so far?
Thank you very much. So I think, as Michael has already said, that maybe they are more or less like opportunities. I heard him at one point in time saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. So I think probably this is a good crisis, but from our perspective as Commercial Business Council, one of the aspects has been on maybe security concerns, to say, probably if I'm sending my money from Malawi, maybe to Zambia, is the money going to be safe there? So there have been like some sort of security concerns. And as a way also of mitigating, I think we've tried as much as possible to explain to the stakeholders to understand the security features of the modular loop. And thanks to modular loop on the convening, even the previous one that we had in July. That's number one. Number two, we are talking of onboarding of participants. So somehow it has been an uphill, because also people didn't understand probably what modular loop is all about. So onboarding has also been an uphill task. But by the end of the day, we've also tried as much as possible to do some awareness, so much so that they can understand what the system is all about. And then finally, I think the other aspect is to do with probably identification of key stakeholders vis-a-vis, like for instance, maybe you're talking of regulators, national switches, even the users themselves are also part of the key stakeholders. Because by the end of the day, if you have built your system is in place, no one is using it, that means it's just a word elephant. What is important is to have usage on the system. So in summary, I think I would say probably those are the key challenges that we have maybe faced as we're trying to come up with this POC. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Jonathan. You are the common denominator for the three. What are, from modular community perspective, challenges did you face?
Thank you, Manzi. So I would say that, having done POC with partnership with CBC as well as Africa Nanda, and also a number of projects in Asia, the key challenge is, as Jamalino pointed out, stakeholder management. But stakeholder management in the context of open source software. Open source software means different things to different people. For many people, when they hear open source, they immediately jump to the conclusion that it's free. That's not necessarily true. And that becomes if it is not free, that's a challenge in and of itself. So that's one thing that we always have a challenge. The second element is that the open source technology allow sovereignty for each adopter. What that means is that data sovereignty, operation sovereignty, software sovereignty. In that, in a sense, you are getting yourself out from a vendor locked in, but it also means that whoever adopting have to make significant investment to understanding and being able to leverage the open source technology as well. So it's not a capital investment, but it's a knowledge investment in understanding that process. It takes some time. And so it's not something that we can download immediately and start utilizing immediately. There's some a non-financial, of course, you know, you have resources, but non-financial investment that you have to make into open source as well. So overcoming those challenges, I think, is one of the, making sure that the right stakeholder understand the right features that open source technology offer. It takes a fair bit of work. And after you get over that work, then I think that we can start going through that. One of the solution, right, of course, is that a lot of adopters here, and as more and more adoption take place, the trust level increases as well. But also, you know, open source is not just Mojalu, right? There's IntelliLedger, there's Mifos, there's multiple different Red Hat, what have you going on. So if more adopter stakeholders understand what open source and how can they make the most of what what open source offer, I think this is the biggest challenge, and I think this is something that, you know, at every time we try to overcome, and so far we're making good progress.
Thank you, Min. Dr. Jonathan, what are the key lessons learned so far from these 2 months you've been implementing the POC?
Thank you very much. So there's been quite a number of key lessons learned, and I think also maybe some of them were covered as I was presenting the recommendations and the other issues. I think the first one is on the Forex engine. I think it's very important, I think, to give it a thorough process in as far as the Forex engine is concerned, because by the end of the day, this is what has got an impact on the cost of maybe transactions for MSMEs. When you look at our MSMEs in the commercial region, they are looking at low cost of transactions. So number one, I would say this needs a well thought through process. And I'm happy that also we're getting feedback, we are being supported on this aspect. That's number one. Number two, we are talking about awareness. I think not many stakeholders also are aware, but it takes also a gradual process for people to be aware and to be a part of the journey itself. I recall when we were starting the project way back in 2019, when we call participants, we would have maybe only 16 joining the meeting. But today you can have over 100, showing that maybe people are aware. So there has to be awareness through various media channels and the others. The third issue, I think security is very important. I recall from Zeki, you're talking about cybersecurity issues. We don't have to overlook such issues. But we're also looking even at the fourth issue as having a sound business model. A sound business model is very important. So much so that by the end of the day, all the DFSPs, all the participants need to know what is it in for them. If they are FX providers, what is it for them? If they are maybe MSMEs, what are they benefiting? So such aspects also are very important in as far as according to what we've learned in the POC. And I think maybe lastly, I think just to emphasize, I think stakeholder engagement is very important. We have to involve the right stakeholders, and I'll wrap up this point even by quoting, I think sometime at Johannesburg Wara Airport, there was a saying which says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go as a team. So I'd say stakeholder engagement is very important, so much so that you get the right feedback that will help you to progress your POC or any other project. Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Jonathan. Mike, what are the key insights from the POC in Southern Sudan so far?
Thank you, Manzi. I think number one is a strong regulatory support. Now, if you're building a national payments infrastructure in any country, the first institution that should give you support is a central bank. And if indeed you don't have the support of the central bank, your project is at risk. And we've seen the kind of support the Bank of South Sudan has given this proof of concept, and we appreciate that. And also honoring the fact that the first deputy governor saw it fit to come and sitting in these discussions only goes to show the level of support. So number one is a strong regulatory support. And then two is to map out your ecosystem properly, because each country has different ecosystem, different actors that you need to map out. You need to also understand your early adopters, the people who can actually embrace national payment infrastructure and run with it. And then the third point is stakeholder management. And for me, I'll say that the stakeholder management is the coffee that you have with a director national payments, or the lunch that you'll have with the deputy governor, or the breakfast that you'll have with someone from a central bank. And they will give you insights and nuances that you ordinarily not get from meetings that usually you have on Zoom and Teams. So the engagement model also needs to change a bit, that you take input from directly and indirectly from your primary stakeholder. And then last but not least is figuring out how to actually run the POC, because the central bank as an executive sponsor can give you blessings to run the payment POC, but you also need an implementer. So number one, right, technology of choice, and in this case, they've chosen Moduloop as a DPG. And then secondly is a right system integrator, someone who has exceptional skills that can actually push the POC to conclusion. And then last but not least is training and awareness, because after you build the system, you don't want to do a POC and then it falls there. I think as you're going through the iterations, you need to constantly provide technical training, operational training, and also scheme level training and governance, the set sort of training we're doing with Glenbrook. So all that gives you a very good lessons learned that you can actually push the POC forward. Thank you. And sorry, I forgot to say, and good technology service providers like this. Thank you.
Welcome. Jam, do you have particular lesson learned from the Guinea implementation so far?
I think some of the lessons have been shared by my colleagues. First, I think, and I have said it, central bank engagement is critical to get the FSPs on board. Beyond lessons, let's also look at some trends we are observing in some of the markets. I think it's important to us to have success experiences. I was discussing yesterday with Steve about that, and we say that, okay, we are now having 3-4 POCs running. At the end of this POC, we can develop some key differences we can share with stakeholders we will be engaging. Because the first question you are asked when you start discussion is where this project, the similar project has been implemented, where are the success stories? So it's important we think about that. Another thing I would say is the fact that the growing focus on DPIs and DPGs, I think it's addressing some of the concerns we were collecting from stakeholders. You know, the first time I met deputy governor of a central bank, first question he asked was, okay, can you confirm that the platform will be hosted in the cloud? I say yes, and the discussion ended. But I think that based on all these initiatives, also from the Moduloop Foundation, we are seeing that people are less and less concerned by all these questions. And another thing to sub on that, I think it's not only building a platform. So I think Michael in his presentation was sharing the critical success factors for Moduloop platform implementation for POCs. And I think one thing that was important is the regulatory environment. That's why for the project in Guinea, for instance, the first request we got from the central bank when we started engaging them was, yes, we can support you, we'll be engaged, but can you also support us review the regulatory environment, because we want to develop a policy for payment system. So when you are developing a POC, you can also have a look at all these things that are part of, I would say, of the pre-project work done by Africa.
Thank you so much. The last question goes to me, and from the technical and operational perspective, what can you see as a lesson learned so far from these POCs across Africa?
So I'd like to agree with some of my colleagues that the technical implementation is probably not the most difficult part in the implementation itself. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but it's not the most difficult part. The challenge is to really understand the environment that you're working in. And I'll give a very specific example. So in our community, we use the words liquidity account, custody account, settlement account interchangeably. But in different jurisdictions, the custody account is common law. Liquidity account is a different type of law. And that have impact on who can initiate payment and who can initiate withdrawal. So going into the project, I think it is very important to aggressively pursue, or aggressive may not be the right word, but very robustly try to understand if we're establishing a same level of understanding of what the technology is saying, what the local regulation says, and what the local commercial banks or financial institution can, if we're all speaking the same language, and making sure that the regulatory environment is also in sync with the terms and the setup that we use. And I think that's probably one of the big challenges that we have. And I would encourage everyone to spend a lot of time in that particular process, because we go through development and then we find those challenges, and you're going to have to go back and fix that, because regulation are unlikely to change for payment system. Payment system will have to adapt to existing regulation. So that, I think, would be one of the key lessons. Technology implementation. The second challenge and the lesson learned is the involvement of local SI, right? Local system implementer. So this our work has done it in multiple different countries, and we're honored to be able to partner with all the distinguished gentlemen here, and we continue to do so. We would like to do so, but a part of the open source mantra or modus operandi is that there needs to be a sovereignty, and that sovereignty is achieved through participation of local system operators as well. This our work spent a lot of time with local system operator, get them up to speed, train them, and make sure that at one point we can collaborate on maintaining, going through that system. And so the local SIs need to catch up, that's one, but also they need to see the value becoming a player or a participant in the open source community as well. So those are some of the key challenges. Alias Oracle development, a number of things. Again, all of those are easily configured. Okay, again, if I use the word easily, someone's gonna not be very happy with me. It can be done. But making sure that what you are designing and what you are building is actually what the market needs and what the market and the existing ecosystem can support. So you asked me about technical challenge. It is there, it is doable, but before you get to the technical part, we have to spend a lot of time trying to understand if we're all speaking the same language. And I think that's a big investment that you have to make. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing a key strategic way of solving the challenges we discussed. You did it well. Thank you, everyone. And we continue. And I hope by next PI, we'll be now talking live environments from some of the cases. Thank you.
Thank you.